He wrote songs that made us feel something. And we didn't know what we were feeling then, but now we understand.
People will be listening to what he contributed to music hundreds of years from now.
Everybody out there is really just passionate about the task at hand, which is to immortalize this already immortal idea that is Jimi Hendrix.
In 1995, we were celebrating the win. We got our rights back, and we wanted to have a festival. And in Seattle, there's a festival every year during Labor Day weekend. It's called Bumbershoot. And they were celebrating their 25th year anniversary, and it had been 25 years since Jimi's passing. Being that we got our rights back and we really felt Jimi came back home, because ironically, in 1970, on July 26th, that was Jimi's last show in Seattle. So it was serendipitous that we have a big party. Then a few years later, we tried to do like just a small tour. It was Seattle, Oregon, and California. We made it a big party and it was a great success. A couple years later, we decided, let's make this a longer tour.
What we do with the tour and why we do it, it's truly to celebrate the music. It's the songs that are the common denominator on a multi-generational global basis. People are attracted to those songs. There's something unique about Jimi Hendrix that speaks to, his fans throughout the world. What I thought was really interesting, and certainly Janie as well, we felt like by presenting a show like this in a way, which wasn't about selling an album or doing anything like that, but that in itself is what keeps Jimi Hendrix alive. For us, this was just a great opportunity to work with a broad range of artists. In many ways, it just shows how wide Jimi Hendrix's influence. You've got folks that are part of the Sacred Steel Gospel, all the way to Zakk Wylde, to Kenny Wayne Shepherd, to Marcus King, to Kingfish, like all these amazing artists that all felt Hendrix's influence.
First time I heard Jimi Hendrix was probably in the womb. My dad was a Hendrix fanatic, so that was what was playing around the house when I was growing up. Hendrix was such an upset to the program, and he kind of came in as such a different kind of player. He was also somebody that would embrace new technology, embracing the usage of the wah pedal, creating sounds that people hadn't really heard before, utilizing the guitar and the feedback. That whole combination of the Carnaby Street and the blues and just pure Americana kind of being folded into this incredible package that nobody had ever seen anything like that before. It's just as potent now as it was back then.
Jimi gave me permission through his music to kind of color outside of the lines. I remember when I saw like the very first Hendrix videos that I could get my hands on, I was watching Jimi and the way he entertained the crowd and the way like the music didn't just overtake him musically, but like physically. He was so innovative with the instrument, taking blues as the foundation and pushing it in so many different directions to create something that was really new and refreshing. Every aspect of my career, I think Jimi has touched.
No other guitar player was doing what Jimi Hendrix was doing, and still, I think to this day, can't really emulate what he has been able to do.
I kind of discovered Jimi Hendrix really through the guitar magazines, because it was the mid-'80s and I had really kind of caught the guitar bug and was really diving into all the guitar magazines. And obviously he was always in all of them. So I think I got Kiss the Sky, the compilation, was the first thing I got, and I was just blown away.
The way he moved with the guitar and the sounds that came out of the guitar, it was something that hadn't been seen before. And I think the special thing about his music is the way that it makes you feel. He has things that are groovy, but they're textured and they have all these different themes, and it's imaginative in terms of the imagery. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody.
He wasn't, afraid to push boundaries, and go outside the box and things like that. So I try to do that in everything I do musically.
He wasn't afraid to be different. That whole not caring, I'm gonna do as I do, write what I write, and tell the story that needs to be told kind of attitude. And
the first time I heard Jimi Hendrix, my father played it for me when I was 6 years old. And it blew my mind. I said, you can't do that on the guitar. My dad said, oh no, I saw him do it live.
He was heavily on rotation in Los Angeles, where we grew up in East Los Angeles. I mean, you couldn't ignore it. It was just amazing. I'm a lefty player, and he was a lefty player, and everyone's like, wow, you know, look, shows that a left-handed guitar player can rock too.
The guitar was a vehicle for something he wanted to do musically. He wanted to create lyrics, melody, songs. He wrote songs. It just so happened that while he did that, he had great stage presence, and especially he played great guitar.
Each and every person plays Jimmy in their own way. However, it inspired them. And I love how all the artists take on the songs and they make it their own.
There's no better high than to have all these amazing musicians who have this collective love for Jimmy expressing themselves together. It doesn't get any better than that. Everybody has the same objective. Let's show the most love and appreciation of Jimmy as we can.
None of us are ever really going to sound just like Jimi Hendrix, but you can hear hints of Jimmy in all of the artists that are on the stage. You know, everybody's got their skill set, everybody has their own spirit they're putting behind the music, but we also have that influence. Jimmy touched all of us for sure.
It's a fine line between really being honest to his approach to music, putting your own little spin on it. You know, you want to be very respectful of the composition. We're doing manic depression and, you know, really trying to keep that spirit and that attitude. But when it comes to the guitar solo, kind of starting in Hendrix land and kind of going off on your own thing and coming back, I think that's the way to let those two worlds coexist. Be yourself inside the parameters that are the planet Hendrix.
I try to respect him and play the song like he did, but also, again, he pushed boundaries. So I try to push a little bit and put my own spin to it as well.
I try to play it from memory, the way I remember it when I first heard it, the way I kind of picked it up when I was a kid. I still try to go from that memory or what it meant to me, not try to analyze it and take it apart. You know, just try to go back to what it felt like to me.
He really does tamper with a lot of different aspects of the music, and it kind of forces the vocalist to kind of have to adapt to what's going on and kind of lay into the music and kind of just let the music take you, you know what I mean? So it's like, I've learned how to kind of, you know, move around and do different things from just that alone.
It's not really gonna serve any justice to anyone if you're just trying to emulate, because you can never replicate. You wanna pay homage, but you also wanna be yourself. So I just gotta go into it, and whenever I'm playing, I try to, you know, turn the lights off up here and just speak from the heart. There's a lot of open channels for improvisation, and the band's really cooking too, so I play some of the quintessential parts as far as like the solos, because the solos were really delicately put together and just, they were so beautiful and so melodic.
Whenever I play on the Experience Hendrix tour, I still try to do things as much as I can to reverse engineer the sounds from the records so I can play in a way that's evocative of the records or the era of whatever we're playing. And I do that with my dad's music, I do that with Van Halen, I do it with whatever. But here, on the Hendrix tour, it's no different. I do all that stuff, but I do it with a fractal. And I'm using a FM9, and it's just straight up FM9 into two QSE K12 wedges. And this guitar is my signature model Shabbat guitar, and it's got this specialty thing in it where I can knock the pickups out of phase and it makes a real octave sound, like an Octavia. So I can show you like what it sounds like without it. It's like a... But then if I pull this, so it really has that kind of vibe already built in, but it's passive. It's not a battery-operated circuit. It's just the way that the out-of-phase thing sums back together, and it gets a really strong harmonic that is like the octave fundamental.
I'm an Allman, I play Gibson guitars, but when you're doing a Hendrix tour, you better be playing a Strat. And my first love was Strat, and I play completely different on a Strat than I do a Les Paul. It feels different, I come up with different things. 90% of the last 20 years for me have been a Les Paul or an SG. To play a Fender Strat in honor is so great to be back. It's like being back home. I'm really grateful for the excuse to pick up my Strat.
I'm just playing through a DeVille, man. I said I'll take whatever has reverb on it. So playing through the DeVille, I'm using my Banker SG Alpine White SG Custom with the 3 pickups, beautiful sounding guitar, and it's a tip of the cap to Hendrix because that's one of the couple of Gibsons that he used. So I used that on Stone Free and Crosstown Traffic, and then I switched to the 62 Strat. You gotta bring a Strat if you're playing Hendrix. As far as pedals, I'm using a color driver made by my friend Teddy in Maine, a company called True-Fi. They're wonderful big soapbox fuzz pedals, and they sound incredible. So I use that, Tube Screamer, and a clean boost, and the Univibe. Try to enter Hendrix land.
We're tuning our guitars to E flat like Jimmy did. So you have that combination of tuning to E flat, going straight into like a half step, 100-watt Marshall, and it's just delightful, man. It's just that tone, and it's kind of like a dream come true on stage because we're able to actually relive that decibels and loud, the way it was meant to be played.
I found the things that work really well after doing this for over 30 years kind of stick with that, and so my pedal board is pretty much the same as I would take to go do a Kenny Wayne Shepherd show. Hendrix's stuff was pretty basic. I mean, he existed in the era where this was groundbreaking technology, like the first fuzz face, the Univibe, the Octavia, the wah pedal, all that stuff was like new. And now we have like 5,000 variations of all of those effects. It doesn't require a complicated setup to do this music. If you have the tools, which is really the hands and the soul to play it, then you don't need a bunch of effects to really recreate that.
Well, she's walking through the crowd with a circus mind.
We want it to be the fruits from the roots. Jimmy being the roots, and of course, Jimmy is a fruit of many other roots of blues and rock. We love the different ages, the different styles of music. We just all are fans of Jimmy's music and want to continue his music and legacy.
For me, being part of this tour it's very special because I think that we're probably the only act that's been part of this thing before it was even a tour. I've had a long relationship with, the Hendrix estate, Janie Hendrix and Al Hendrix when he was still alive, and John McDermott and all those people. So, they're kind of like a extended part of our family. I feel like we're an extended part of their family. And my love and appreciation for Jimmy and his music, I mean, we've covered Jimmy's music. I mean, since I put my band together when I was 15 years old, I end every show with our version of Voodoo Child. And we've covered other songs of his on different records over the course of my career. So his music, my music, it's very intertwined in our relationships between our families, I think. So it's very special to be part of this tour, and you have so many incredibly talented players, some of the greatest players on the face of the planet today, and we're paying tribute to the greatest of all time. I mean, it's a winning combination.
Well, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, he's got the great line where he says it's summer camp for the artist. Jimmy is the binding agent, if you will. People check their egos at the door. It isn't like a star thing where, everybody has to be treated a certain way. You've had Dave Mustaine sitting next to Taj Mahal soaking in all of this information, not just about Jimmy, but just about blues and music and things like that. And, David Hidalgo and Cesar Rosas are here talking with young artists like Kingfish and others. There's something amazing to that. I mean, as a music fan, you get to be witness to that. This is the living history of this music. I mean, blues music or guitar music or blues rock or however you want to call it, all of that connects all of us. So by being a part of it and seeing how much joy people get, not just in going out there for the show, but for the hang, for the interaction, for the inspiration, to see how somebody's doing something, to watch an Eric Johnson play in the way he does, it's unique, it's singular, of course, but yet at the same time, it's inspirational because people think, wow, look at how he's arranged, One Rainy Wish or Are You Experienced or things like that. We love the song as Jimmy did it, but at the same time, Jimmy had that confidence and ability to take All on the Watchtower the way Bob Dylan did it and to reinvent it to make it his own. So that process, I think, is something that the fans and the audience look forward to. Part of the pleasant surprise that they get. I mean, it's not kind of a ball rolling downhill for 3 hours. It's a collaborative thing where you might be a fan of Zakk Wylde, but you haven't seen him play with these people. You might be a fan of Kenny Wayne Shepherd, but to see him interact and play with other people, I think that's what makes the show special.
It's great to hear other people's interpretation of Jimmy. Everybody has a different slant. Some people totally redo the song. Some people do their own arrangement a little bit. Some people like to play it pretty close to the record. But I think it's a celebration of a great artist that people just love hearing his music.
It's a blessing and an honor anytime I can get on stage with anybody, especially people that are emotive, people that go out on stage with the intention of healing themselves and healing others with the power of music.
Most of the other artists I kind of like grew up looking at in like guitar magazines and on YouTube. So like Kenny Wayne and Zach and even Mato. So it's a beautiful thing to be out here with the OGs for sure.
Backstage, you'd be seeing anybody just sit down and go, hey, show me that lick, or how do you play that? The beauty of it is that everybody loves the music, everybody wants to do a good job, and everybody wants to have fun and play together.
It's pretty out of this world. I mean, like, they are some of the people that we looked up to as, as kids. I remember playing Guitar Hero, and some of these people are actually like, playing the tracks, to this stuff. And so I'm like, man, being able to be here and just like listen and like soak up everything, it is like such a different experience. It's almost outer body whenever you close your eyes on stage, and the moment's going. Everything just stops.
It's crazy, man. Yeah, I remember I saw the tour when I was younger. My mom took me to see the show back in Houston. And for me, it feels full circle because I saw Dweezil. We waited after the show. I waited for Dweezil Zappa to come outside, man, and took a picture with him. And I think last year when I got on the tour, I showed him the picture. I was like, yeah, man, it's a couple years later, but I'm back. And this time I'm watching side stage. It's like being on cloud nine because my name was on the back of the bus right next to his. I'm like, dude, some of this stuff you just can't make up.
I almost felt kind of like unworthy to be playing this music and on stage with all these amazing guitar players. And, I'm turning around and I'm seeing the big screen with Jimmy's images that I've never seen before and videos of him playing live. It's a guitar player's dream to be on this tour.
To see it celebrated in a beautiful theater with like a dozen of today's top guitar players is about as good as it's going to get without having Jimmy there.
This music is definitely important to be preserved and to turn on coming generations. Like any great art, you have to keep it going if you can.
You have all these younger artists that are participating in this tour, and that is proof right there that Jimmy's music, decades later, after the fact, is continuing to have an influence on new generations of musicians and new artists. And so it's just a testament, I think, to the music that he created and the longevity of his career.
Jimi Hendrix was with us for a short period of time, but he did a lot of stuff that seems to be inspirational and will stand the test of time always. He did it with simple equipment. So really what happened was he plugged his persona into the music, into the amplifier. And so when people try to get that sound and they go right into a Marshall and a fuzz face, they're hoping that they're gonna have some of the charisma and the vibe that he was able to create and coax out of that. And that's the thing that keeps it all going is somebody having the dream to say, I wanna be half as cool as what he did.
I would hope it would bring in more audience, give them the opportunity to hear Hendrix's sound. His music's been around for years. It's almost like he's never left.
Even after all this time, his music is still alive, and it's cool for us youngins to teach our generation about him and everything like that, because how I found about him, was through, a CD. Those are really not popular with my generation like that anymore, so for them to hear us play, it's a beautiful thing.
His music was way before his time, so it's aged perfectly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think
we caught up to it.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It never got old. And I think that's something that you would have to really appreciate about his music and his artistry. It's always a different trip every single time you turn the record on. It don't matter what it is. You're going down a different, rabbit holes. So it's pretty awesome.
It was history in the making then. Now it's preserving the legacy. And that's what we talk about on the bus all the time, preserving the legacy of Hendrix. I was going over the songs today. I was like, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this right, because we all know how these songs sound. We also know how these songs make us feel. And that's more important than anything else.
I think the Hendrix moniker is something that could very well just carry itself. I do think it's important to continue to play this music and play it live and to honor the music live. We're just trying to continue on that legacy with as much humility and reverence as we can.